Have you ever heard of the Silent Twins? This is not a movie. It's not a creepypasta. It's a real story, and one of the strangest psychological mysteries ever recorded. It all begins in the 1960s. June and Jennifer Gibbons were born in Barbados, but they grew up in Wales, in the United Kingdom. From the very beginning, they were different. Unlike most children, June and Jennifer refused to speak to anyone but each other. Not their teachers, not their classmates, not even their own parents. Instead, they whispered to one another in a strange, secret language, a language nobody else could understand. To outsiders, it was chilling. Imagine two young girls, sitting together, lips barely moving, speaking in whispers only they could decode. It was as if they lived in a world that nobody else was allowed to enter. As they grew older, things only got stranger. The twins mirrored each other's movements. If one turned her head, the other followed. If one walked, the other matched her steps perfectly, like a reflection in a mirror. Neighbors recalled watching them walk through town in perfect sync, their heads turning at the exact same second, their feet hitting the ground at the exact same time. It was unnatural and unsettling. In school, teachers noticed something even darker. While other children played, June and Jennifer stayed silent. Their classmates often mocked them, calling them strange, weird, or creepy. The twins withdrew deeper into their own world. They stopped speaking to anyone completely and communicated only through journals and letters to each other. And what they wrote was disturbing. By their teenage years, the Silent Twins began writing violent stories. Their diaries contained chilling tales of obsession, crime, and death. In their writing, they described acts of cruelty, dangerous fantasies, and twisted relationships. Eventually, fiction turned into reality. The sisters began committing petty crimes, shoplifting, vandalism, and later, arson. They burned down an entire building. The courts didn't know what to do with them. They weren't ordinary criminals, but they were dangerous. So they were sent to Broadmoor Hospital, a high-security psychiatric facility, the same place that housed some of the UK's most notorious killers. Inside Broadmoor, doctors noticed something terrifying. Jennifer seemed to have complete control over June. June described it as a kind of possession. She said she could not eat, sleep, or move unless Jennifer allowed it. It was as if her entire existence was trapped inside her twin's shadow. And then, something horrifying happened. In 1993, after nearly a decade in Broadmoor, the twins were told they would be transferred to a lower security hospital. They seemed happy about the news. But Jennifer began saying strange things. She told June that she was going to die. She said it calmly, as if it was already decided. And then, during the transfer, Jennifer suddenly collapsed in the car. She was rushed to the hospital. But by the time doctors examined her, it was too late. Jennifer was dead. The cause of death? Acute myocarditis, an inflammation of the heart. But here's the terrifying part. There was no poison, no drugs, no trauma. Her death was completely unexplained. After Jennifer's death, June's behavior changed instantly. She began speaking to other people normally. She made friends. She started living her life. It was as if Jennifer's death had freed her from some invisible prison. Later, June admitted something chilling. She said, "We had made a pact. One of us would die, and the other would live." To this day, no one can fully explain the bizarre and terrifying bond between the Silent Twins. Was it psychological, supernatural, or something else entirely? What we do know is that June still lives to this day, while Jennifer remains a haunting mystery. And the story of the Silent Twins continues to chill anyone who dares to read it. So the question is, what do you think really happened? Did Jennifer's heart simply give out? Or was their bond something far more terrifying? Have you ever heard of the Dyatlov Pass Incident? It's one of the most chilling unsolved mysteries in modern history. A story so strange, so disturbing, that even the official investigation couldn't explain what really happened. It all begins in January 1959. A group of 10 hikers, most of them students from the Ural Polytechnic Institute, set out on a skiing expedition into the frozen wilderness of the Ural Mountains in Soviet Russia. Their leader was Igor Dyatlov, a 23-year-old engineering student. The team was young, skilled, and highly experienced. This was not a casual hike. It was meant to test their survival skills in one of the most hostile environments on Earth. But only 9 of them would ever be found again. For days, the group trekked through deep snow, documenting their journey in journals and photographs. Everything seemed normal. They sang songs around campfires. They laughed. They posed for the camera. The last photo showed them smiling, unaware of the terror that was about to unfold. On February 1st, the group set up camp on the slopes of a mountain known to the local Monsey people as Kolotsyakal. The name translates to the Mountain of the Dead. Snowstorms raged that night. The hikers zipped up their tent, settled in, and then something happened. Something that made them flee for their lives. Weeks later, when search and rescue teams finally reached the site, what they found shocked everyone. The tent was still standing, but it had been ripped open. And not from the outside, from the inside. As if the hikers had been so desperate to escape, they cut their way out. Their boots, their coats, their food, everything was left behind. It was as if something had terrified them so badly, they ran half-naked into the freezing snow. The searchers began finding bodies. 2 men were discovered near the edge of the forest, dressed only in their underwear. Nearby, rescuers found 3 more bodies: Dyatlov himself, another man, and a woman, as if they had tried to crawl back to the tent. The rest of the group was not found until months later, when the snow began to melt. That's when things got even more disturbing. Several of the bodies showed horrific injuries. 1 man had a fractured skull. 2 others had broken ribs so severe, doctors compared the force to a car crash. Yet, there were no external wounds, no bruises, no signs of an attack. And then, there was one of the women. Her body was missing its tongue. Her eyes were gone, and there were traces of radiation on her clothes. The Soviet investigation could not explain it. They interviewed locals, soldiers, scientists, but every theory crumbled. There were no footprints of intruders, no signs of wild animals, no evidence of an avalanche. In the end, the files closed with a chilling statement. The hikers had died from an unknown compelling force. For decades, theories have swirled. Some say it was an avalanche that forced them to flee, but experts argue that the tent's position makes that unlikely. Others point to secret Soviet military testing. Strange lights in the sky were reported that night. Could the hikers have wandered into a weapons experiment? There's also the radiation found on the clothing of several hikers. Where did it come from? And then, of course, there are the supernatural explanations. Some believe the hikers encountered something otherworldly. What really happened that night on the Mountain of the Dead? No one knows for certain. What we do know is this: 9 young hikers went into the mountains. 9 lives ended in horror. And more than 60 years later, the Dyatlov Pass Incident remains one of the most chilling mysteries in human history. So tell me, what do you think happened on that frozen mountain? An avalanche? A military cover-up? Or something far more terrifying? If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like, subscribe, and comment if you want more real-life horror mysteries.